Greetings, new college students. I'm Andrew Rodriguez, the campus counselor at University of Valley Forge. As part of your first year course, I will be providing some tips on maintaining your own well-being while in college. There's a lot to say and only so much time, so I won't be able to go over everything I usually like to discuss. I'm just going to stick to some very basic and practical tips for mental health. So, first things first, what are you? Humans are made in the image of God as spirit-body composites. Okay? You're not just a meat sack, nor are you just a spirit trapped inside a body. You are your spirit, and you are your body. You are a symbol of the union of heaven and earth. And your soul is what I consider the overlap of your spirit and body. That's your mind, emotions, and will, or your thoughts, feelings, and actions. So we cannot talk about your mental health without also addressing your physical health. Let's start with talking about energy. You're going to need lots of it to get through each semester, to get through each day. Think of it this way. You have 3 types of energy, and you need to keep track of them. You've got your physical energy, mental energy, and emotional energy. Now, emotional energy is spent on stress and interactions with people. Even if they are positive interactions, they will eventually drain you. Mental energy is needed for concentration, problem solving, calculating, listening, like listening to lectures, reading books. And then physical energy is spent on everything. So think of physical energy as your foundation, because not only is that used up with walking and running and doing errands and moving around, but it's also drained by your emotional energy and your mental energy. They're both drawing from your physical energy. So that means we need to care for our bodies. God gave us our bodies so we can be a gift of love to Him and to others. So treat your body well so it will be able to serve yourself, God, and others for many years to come. So you need 3 things: sleep, nutrition, and exercise. When it comes to sleep, make sure you have a regular bedtime and waking routine. Figure out what your chronotype is. I don't got time to get into it all, but there's a few different types of chronotypes. That means the type of person you are and how much sleep you need, and if you're more awake at night or during the day or in the morning. Okay? When you figure out your chronotype, then you can figure out just how much sleep you need and when the ideal time is for you to go to bed. About 20 minutes or more before bed, make sure to avoid screens. The blue light hinders melatonin, that fun, sleepy neurotransmitter chemical. And the subtle flicker of screens, it actually can cause some anxiety. So you want to avoid those screens right before bed. I know that's tough for us. We live on our computers and our smartphones, but we want to sort of give our body and our brain a rest so we can prepare for sleep time. And I know this is going to be tough. You're in college. I know. Lay off the sugar and caffeine a couple hours before bed. If you really have a hard time relaxing, take a warm shower or a bath. I'm not sure if you guys got bathtubs in your dorms, but if they're clean enough, take a bath sometimes. And even if you go to bed late, wake up at the same time every day. Get used to a schedule, a routine. And if you went to bed late and so you didn't get much sleep, well, you'll adjust and you'll learn not to keep doing that. Make sure to get about 5 to 15 minutes of sunlight when you wake. Okay, if you're someone who likes to have the blinds drawn and you're like a vampire, well, open up those blinds and pull back that curtain and get some sunlight. You need it. It'll help wake you up and refresh you. And if you still have difficulty waking up, splash some cold water in your face or take a cold shower. Alright, so some basics about nutrition. I'm not the expert here, so I'm not going to go into this much. But this is everyday stuff. But one thing I see with my clients is, well, a lot of them aren't eating. So make sure you're eating some sort of breakfast when you get up. Within the first hour of waking, try to get some sort of breakfast. And you want to load up on calories in the first half of your day. That way you have the rest of the day to burn them all off. You're going to need that energy to get through all your classes and chapel and if you go to work later. So you need the energy more earlier in the day rather than at the end. Sometimes we get it backwards where the heaviest meal is dinner time, but you really need the heavier meals to be earlier than that. And remember, carbs increase sleepiness. So if you're trying to stay up and you're trying to pull an all-nighter, loading up on a bunch of sugars and carbs is actually going to make it harder for you. For energy, think about things like protein and complex carbs rather than simple carbs, meaning like sugars. So complex carbs would be things from fibers, vegetables, fruits. Those will help give you more extended energy. And while you're working out your brain, learning all sorts of things in college, don't forget to work out your body. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So you got to keep it in shape and mobile if you want it to work for you when you get really old. So I know the ideal is like 30 minutes of cardio every day. That might not be realistic, but try to get something in each day. If you can walk instead of drive, then walk. And I'm going to practice what I preach because when I'm done with this video, I'm going to go for a walk myself. Avoid sitting all day. There are dozens of health risks caused just by sitting. Google it. I don't have time to go over them all. Now, as a therapist, I also would say that exercise is also important if you have pent-up anxiety and anger. Your body is producing all this extra energy when you're feeling those particular emotions, and if you don't use it up, it will turn toxic. We'll get into that a little more later. Okay, so those are some basic ways that your body contributes to your psychological well-being. Now let's take a look at the soul. I think of the soul as the middleman between your body and your spirit. There are aspects that are physical and aspects that are spiritual or immaterial. And the soul is composed of these three: your thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's important to understand how the three interact. They each influence the others. It all depends on your starting point. Generally, your thoughts create your feelings, which then motivate your behaviors, and then that behavior reinforces the thoughts. And it works the other way too. Your thoughts decide upon a particular behavior, you act out that behavior, and that action impacts your feelings, and then those feelings influence your thoughts. What's also important to know is that you have the ability to choose your thoughts and actions, but you do not have the ability to choose, at least directly, your emotions. And emotions are often the reason why people come into my office. They've been falling into a pattern of behavior and thoughts based on their emotions. And emotions are determined by several things, some of which we have no control over. Maybe our circumstances, how others treat us, our physiology, and our thoughts and our behaviors. Okay, pause for a moment and reflect. What beliefs or messages about feelings did you acquire growing up? Are they good or bad? Should they be expressed? Were you allowed to express them? Were you allowed to feel your feelings? Are some emotions for boys and others for girls? Can you learn anything from your feelings? While you're in college, growing your academic knowledge, I encourage you to grow in your emotional intelligence. It will serve you very well in your relationships, your walk with God, and in your service in the church and in the workforce. For starters, can you identify your feelings? Let's try an exercise. I'll throw out a statement and you determine if it's an emotion or something else. Okay. I feel like they don't like me. Is that an emotion? No. Oftentimes we confuse feelings with assessments or thoughts or judgments. So this is actually, in this case, this is a belief about the way others think about you. You make me feel unimportant. Feeling? Perhaps. I would probably go a little bit more in depth, and I want to find out, well, what is the emotion that comes up with that sense of being unimportant. Most likely I'm thinking something like shame, or sadness, loneliness, despair, maybe anger. Here's another one. I'm angry about him hitting you. Is that an emotion? Yes, yeah, angry. And you actually identified what it's related to. I'm sad when I see you're not home when I get home from work. Yeah, that's a feeling. I'm sad. And you're able to identify what it's related to as well in that one. I feel like stopping. Is that an emotion? No. No, that's more of a desire. I feel like stopping. But that doesn't tell us how the person is feeling when they make that statement. There could be all sorts of feelings if I say I want to stop. Perhaps I want to stop because I'm despairing, because I'm discouraged, or because I'm angry, I'm frustrated, or I'm satisfied. Maybe based on the tone, the way we're saying it, and what the context is, that one statement can mean a whole bunch of things. I'm tired. Emotion? Yeah. Yeah. Fatigue, tired, yes. This may seem weird or take some getting used to, but I encourage you to work on distinguishing your thoughts from your feelings. There's a lot of overlap, of course, but you will grow in self-awareness and how you present yourself to the world when you can readily identify how you feel. If you have difficulty identifying your feelings, here's a tip. Scan your body. Here's why. Emotions are embodied indicators of your assessment of your experiences, motivating a particular response. See, they are your body and soul's dashboard. As you grow in awareness of your emotions, you will notice that you feel them in certain ways and in certain places in your body. So your emotions tell you something about how you're assessing the state of your needs, your desires, your boundaries, your rights. If they're being fulfilled or not being fulfilled, you'll experience particular emotions. There are a variety of emotions, but let's put them into, say, two categories for right now. Inhibitory and expressive. Inhibitory would be the emotions that hold us back. Maybe they're holding back another emotion, or they're holding back actions, or they're holding us back from thinking particular thoughts, or holding us back from interacting with others. So these would be things like pain, shame, anxiety, fear, apathy, boredom. These are ones that sort of put us to a halt and they depress us. So depression as well. And the other category would be expressive emotions. Now this is not necessarily these good and bad emotions, but simply what is your mode of operating when you're experiencing these emotions? So an expressive emotion could be joy, surprise, as well as sadness and anger. These are emotions that need to be expressed. They don't hold us back. Now, when it comes to the mind, the goal is to think thoughts that are both rational and healthy. I always tell clients this. My job is to try to help you live in reality. When we refuse to accept the reality of a situation and then to act toward meeting our needs in healthy ways, that's when we get in trouble. Now, here's a key concept to remember. It's the ABC model. All right, so A. What does A stand for? A is for the activating event, meaning the fancy way of saying whatever the situation is. So what is it that happened? And then C is the consequence, usually an emotion or maybe an impulse or compulsive behavior. But let's stick with emotion, okay? We go through life most of the time thinking that A automatically causes C. All right? A, someone said something politically incorrect. C, I rage out, I shout down the speaker, and I disrupt the event. But what we're missing there between A and C is what? B. And what's B? Belief or beliefs. It's your set of beliefs and your expectations, your assumptions, the way you're interpreting the activating event and filtering the experience. And so you may have a belief if you encounter someone who says something politically incorrect and your response is to rage out. My hunch is that your belief is that words are just as dangerous as physical assault. And so you believe that you are being harmed just by hearing something that goes against your own beliefs and ideology. So when you believe you're being harmed, you lash out. As we examine our beliefs, be on the lookout for particular thought patterns, assumptions, or expectations that are irrational or unhealthy. We call them cognitive distortions. They limit your freedom in tolerating unfamiliar or uncomfortable scenarios and meeting your needs. I'm going to walk you through some really common cognitive distortions. Okay, personalizing. This is where you think that all situations and events evolve around you. Everyone was looking at me and wondering why I was there. Catastrophizing. This is blowing negative events out of proportion. This is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. Minimizing. This is where we gloss over the positive factors or shrinking their importance, overlooking the fact that nothing really bad happened. All or nothing or either or thinking. You look at things in absolute black and white categories. Either I'm a loser or I'm a winner. Jumping to conclusions. You conclude things are bad without any concrete evidence. Ryan didn't say hi to me in the hallway. He must hate me. Forget him. Mind reading. You assume people are reacting negatively to you. Everyone there thought I was fat and ugly. Fortune telling. You predict that things will turn out badly. I know that I'm never going to find someone who will love me. Overgeneralizing. You view a negative event as a never-ending pattern of defeat. I didn't get this job. No one will ever hire me. Mental filter. You dwell in the negatives and ignore the positives. Maybe you had a successful interview, but you focus on one or two tough questions and you're just like, I blew it. Blame. You blame yourself for something you are not entirely responsible for, or you blame others and overlook ways you contributed to a problem. And labeling. You label your entire self rather than focusing on specific behaviors that can be changed. Instead of saying, I made a mistake, you tell yourself, I am a mistake. If you find that you use cognitive distortions, I recommend a structured form of journaling. In the entry, note the basics of the situation, then your emotion that you felt, the beliefs that caused the emotion, and then pick out the distortions that are in those beliefs. Then think of new beliefs, rational, healthy, godly ones, and new behaviors based on those thoughts, even if it's all after the fact. Maybe you couldn't have prevented reacting a certain way as you're looking at the scenario, but now in hindsight you can examine it and think of what you could do, and at least you get the gears turning, and maybe as you do that more and more, you'll be able in the moment to change your thoughts. This brings us to the final part of the soul, our behavior, the actions. And the goal here is to choose behaviors that make you strong. Most students deal with the P word, procrastination. If you come to me and you're like, well, I have a problem with procrastination. Well, welcome to the club. There's nothing special about you for doing that. Okay? Everyone struggles with procrastination. Now, procrastination is not about just plain laziness or not knowing what to do, but it's actually more about fear. Fear of the unfamiliarity or the discomfort from starting the process you know you need to do. Like if you know you need to do a 10-page research paper, you know you need to get some books and start studying and reading them and taking notes. And maybe you're not used to doing research papers that way. You're used to copying and pasting from articles and maybe changing a few words so that it doesn't get flagged as plagiarism. So you know that to do a really challenging job would require you stepping outside of your comfort zone. Maybe you fear failing, or you fear receiving judgment and punishment for inadequate efforts. But this is what you must remember. For every choice you make, if you continue making that same choice, it carries you down a path. At the end of each path is the development of a particular character trait, a virtue or a vice. Reflect for a moment and think about your behavior patterns. What type of character do you want to nurture through your choices? If you persist in avoiding or resisting responsibilities and challenges outside your comfort zone, will you develop strengths or weaknesses? Some entities and systems are fragile. They get weaker by experiencing hardships. But here's a funny thing about humans. God made us to be anti-fragile. That means more than just being resilient, where you bounce back from a hardship, but it means that you are made to grow stronger in adversity and hardships. Of course, some of us, and that means unfortunately the majority of Generation Z, were kept so safe that they did not develop anti-fragility. Or some of us have been through severe trauma in childhood, and we need significant support in order to face new challenges in the present. But the principle still remains. If you want to grow stronger, you must run toward that which you fear. This fits with a tool in dialectical behavioral therapy called act opposite. When you are experiencing an inhibitory emotion, like anxiety or fear or pain or depression, act in a way opposite of what that emotion is telling you to do. For example, if you're overwhelmed with stress and feeling pressure to keep up with everything, what you need to do is pause, breathe, probably take a break. We need regular rest to refresh ourselves. Or, if you're feeling down and you want to isolate yourself, what you actually need to do is go beyond yourself and reach out to others. Push past your social anxiety. Take that risk of rejection and communicate your desire to connect. What about you? When you're feeling ashamed, hurt, depressed, anxious, fearful, apathetic, bored, lethargic, if you allowed those feelings to direct you, what would you do? How could you act opposite of those feelings? As I wrap up, let's tie everything together. In times of stress and anxiety, what could you do? Let's go back to our bodies. When anxious, your body is producing adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol to help you fight or flee from a threat. And that threat could be a physical threat, or it could be a threat against your sense of worth, a threat to your achievements, a threat to your relationships. So we respond the same way to any threat. And the longer those chemicals stay in your body, they stress your whole system. Your digestion, your immune system, your cardiovascular system, it affects everything. So it's important to calm your nervous system. And one simple thing can really help with this. Breathing. Take back control of one function of your body. Intentionally breathing, just focusing on that. You breathe in through your nose. As you inhale, you lift yourself with your diaphragm and breathe out your mouth. Not a fast pace, but in a deliberate pace. Allowing your anxious thoughts that come in, just allow them enter and then pass and leave. Allow God's grace to be in that moment. And you can incorporate other actions into this activity to get even more out of it. Utilize your mind. Visualize a calming scenery. Pray to God with thanksgiving. Meditate on scriptural truths. And with your actions, don't forget to build up a support system, especially if you never developed an adequate anti-fragility. You're going to need support. But build up that support system not just for you, but so that you can give out to others the same love you receive from God. All right, that's the time for now. I hope that was encouraging to you and helps give you some pointers for how to navigate college life, especially in this brave new world we're in, with all sorts of things that might be causing anxiety for you. But I hope that you know that you have the ability to handle things, and you have a God who loves you, and you have a community here on campus that cares about you as well. If you need further assistance, you can reach out to the Student Health Center and maybe look into setting up an appointment for counseling. But otherwise, I pray you use these tools to build a community on campus that is caring and supportive and helps us all get stronger together. All right. God bless.